I got one. Call the meeting of the President and Board of Trustees to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Here.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich. Trustee Wajowski.
Here.
Trustee Benucci.
Here.
Trustee Lamb.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. If we could rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Presidential comments.
Since this is one of our first business meetings in a little while, I just want to bring up that I attended police awards over in Tinley Park during August. And again, our police department honored itself and the village of Plainfield. In the championship class, they came out third in the traffic challenge. And we also received another plaque for railroad safety. And as was in the paper today, we had a car try to go around the tracks, around the worn arms, and got hit. So it's very important. So congratulations to our police department. That's all I have.
Trustees' comments.
Comment. Construction's begun at Route 126 and Meadow. I just want to thank staff, Brian Murphy, as well as Alan and anyone else that's been instrumental in putting that project together. It's definitely needed, and look forward to seeing it completed. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the second grade students at Lincoln Elementary. We had a great time today. Mayor Collins and I got to visit the class and answer their questions on government and how things work, and their questions were wonderful. They asked a lot of questions about where the board meets and what the process is and how everybody does their jobs and who's on it and all kinds of things and who pays for it, and all. So the taxes word came up. But the students were wonderful, and we invited them to a future meeting, so we hope in the next week or so that they'll be able to join us and at least sit in the beginning part of it and see the process. So, thank you.
Are there any other trustee comments? If not, this would be time for public comments. Come to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
My name is, I'm not sure, is it on? Okay, everyone can hear me? Okay. Dr. Parvin, I'm with Family Behavioral Health. I'm its medical director. First off, I wanted to thank everybody for allowing me to have the time to speak. Honorable Mayor Collins and the great board that's here. I want to, of course, thank the citizens. That's the reason why this organization is even here in the first place. It's appropriate we started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I wanted to thank Chief Konopek and, of course, Fire Chief Riddle. You know, when we started here almost 3 years ago, we were on Route 59 and in the Meadows building, and we are now located 135th and Route 30. I think Mr. Garrigan, you're witness to that inception. He was part of that planning in the beginning and helped with that whole process. I can say that we're definitely part of the community, and you know, behavioral health is definitely a very important part of our lives these days. I can say that multiple times the police have come over and helped us. They've helped our citizens. Fire department's been there. If we look at Lieutenant Joe Glinowitz and other heroes who've fallen, we know now the importance of behavioral health, you know, and especially family behavioral health in our community. It's no longer a joke. It's no longer something to be, you know, kind of just to talk about in a sleight of hand anymore. It's something to be invested in from the ground up. We deal with it every day, from our children, adolescents, or adults, and really we're all about the family here. We're invested in our community in Plainfield, and we believe it's an honor to be part of this community. And every day we live in the community, we're part of it, and we're part of all your lives. And we're just so blessed to be here. And again, we just wanted to say, as part of Family Behavioral Health, and I'm representing them, to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts to be allowed to be part of this community. And every day, we're not perfect. There are people sometimes leaving that building angry. And they're leaving angry because we have to tell them the truth. Because we can't cookie cutter diagnose them. We have to template everybody, what is that? We have to tell them the truth, and whatever that may be. Because we have to adjust to every human being and their needs. But I'll tell you what, we've been forward, backwards for them in every way, shape. We care about everybody. Because we may be at the grocery line next to them, and we look forward to every person in our community getting better. And again, it's such an honor and privilege to be part of this community. Everybody in our practice just loves it, and we're just we pinch ourselves. We can't believe we're here in Plainfield doing all the great stuff we're doing. But it can't happen without all of us. We're insignificant drops, but just remember, these insignificant drops together become the ocean. And we're all together, something that's really important. I want you, please, all not to forget behavioral health. It's very important. I'm clinical assistant professor at UIC Med School. I publish papers. I've done things. I will come out. I'll do whatever I can to help. Call me. I love doing that educational part. I'll come out to the police department, come out to the fire department. I'll come out and do whatever I can. You do your coffee talks with the community mayor. Call me. Maybe call me for sure. I'll do whatever I can. Sorry, that was a little joke about call me maybe. Humor is part of the thing too. But all joking aside. When I see things like Lieutenant Joe, G.I. Joe is what they called him, and the tragedy that happened to him, that's the kind of stuff that should have been dealt with, whoever those people were, way early in the story in their lives. And that's what we're about. We're about dealing with that stuff way early in the story and making a difference. And I think everybody here can do that. Because it takes a whole village to make a difference. And I think that's what this village is about.
Thank you, Doctor.
So thank you very much, and appreciate it. And again, thank you all the heroes that are here, and from the bottom of our hearts. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Not, then we'll proceed with the business meeting. We're seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking motion to approve the consent agenda to include minutes of the board meeting and executive session held on August 17th, bills paid and bills payable reports for September 21st, cash and investments revenue and expenditure reports for August, and authorize the 2015 contribution payment of $21,238 to the Lower DuPage River Watershed Coalition pursuant to resolution number 1650.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made.
Clerk, before we have a vote on this particular consent agenda, I was wondering if our administration possibly could contact or in some fashion contact the DuPage River Watershed Coalition, and if they could possibly come before our village board and explain their work and exactly what they're doing. I know a couple of years ago or recently, within the past year, we had representatives from this coalition come. Give a general overview of what is being done and how our money's being spent in what fashion. $21,000 plus is not a capital expenditure, but it still is an expenditure. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to approve items A through D under the consent agenda. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Boulevard annexation. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3228, annexing the property located at Route 30 and I-55.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
Just one question. I think this is the entire 160 acres. I'm not good enough at reading property
That's
description to
correct.
figure that
The
out.
legal description incorporates the full 160 acres.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was my only comment, I think does it make sense? I know it's probably not required, but would it make sense to add just maybe a small diagram or a map showing what that, because for somebody to read that legal, most people aren't gonna know what that.
There will have to be before we record this document, there'll be a plat of annexation, which is being prepared or will be prepared by the applicant.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not. The motion was made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3228, annexing the property located at Route 30 and I-55. Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 12709 South Shelley Lane fence variance. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3229, granting approval of a variance to permit placement of a black vinyl coated chain link fence in the corner side yard at 12709 South Shelley Lane.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
I just had one comment, and you referenced it. It's not in the ordinance, but the reference to the black vinyl coated, does it need to be in the ordinance?
I think that's just for clarification. As you know, we don't allow metal chain link, but this is back vinyl coated, so just for clarification purposes. So there's no ambiguity. The board did review that and think there was general consent and consent about that proposed specification or spec of the fence.
Right, so, I'm sorry, so that specification was specific and important, but I'm saying it's not covered, I don't think it's identified in the actual ordinance document. I didn't know if that should be added.
No, I think it's actually in the minutes, so that's fine.
That's good, thank you.
Yeah, there's no need. In fact, it probably isn't for a variance to put that kind of detail into the ordinance, but I think that's what will be enforced, according to Mr. Garrigan.
Yeah, black's invisible, which is the reason why we wanted black, so essentially anyway.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not. The motion was made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3229, approving a fence variance at 12709 South Shelley Lane. Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 14921 South Route 59. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3230, rezoning 14921 South Route 59 from R1 to business transition.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Napa. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a site plan for a Napa store at Lot 10 at the southeast corner of 135th Street and Route 59.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
I just have a couple of comments, and I think they were addressed, but in reading the minutes from the planning commission, so there was some discussion, Michael, I believe, about the first driveway close to 135th, and I think that the resolution was that everybody was comfortable, and more importantly, I guess the PUD, somebody suggested maybe right in, right out, but the PUD requires a full access.
That's correct. There's a unified management plan for the overall Myers project, so that is a full access point. That's defined by the overall site plan PUD for the project.
I see there was also a note in the minutes about the trash enclosure. Did the applicant agree to the trash enclosure?
Yeah, the applicant has changed the materials, and of course, it will be fully enclosed.
Thank you.
Materials will be Bell brick.
And then last, I guess where I was asking about earlier, and I wasn't sure, it says in the final plat, the balance of Lot 10 will become Lot 11. and contain approximately 26,331 square feet. But I think the plat that was included talks about 1.0 and 43,000 square feet. That was the discrepancy. I wasn't
yeah,
sure if
Perhaps
understanding it
Mr.
correctly.
Hendrickson is actually here this evening, the actual applicant. Based on my review, I thought that was approximately a half acre.
The visual that's up on the screen currently is showing, that you just took down, shows it as showing the 26,000.
Is it this one or this one? This one? Okay.
I think they both work, sir.
Oh, they'd both work, okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a shot of
Could
the-
you just say your name, please?
Yes, my name's Dan Henriksen. I'm the developer on the project. I'm also the architect on the project.
The question that was asked was regarding the new lot that gets created being 26,000, just about 6/10 of an acre.
Versus the plat's showing an acre or a little bit more than an acre. So I was just
We don't-
curious
we
which
don't
is the correct
control
one.
what's remaining, of course. What you're seeing as Lot 1 is actually Lot 10. The property line got moved over from what's basically halfway point, moved over, so the remaining portion is, I think, 26,000 square feet. I suppose at some point that lot will be combined with what Lot 2 is, potentially one development, if not split again, be my guess.
I'm sorry, can you help me understand that? I'm still confused.
Excuse me, sir, you have to take that microphone, the little one, if you walk away from the podium.
Pretty loud voice, but I'll do that
Very,
anyway.
not really. We televise the.
Oh, do you? Okay, very good. This was the original property line right here. And so we needed that much property to move that over. So this was the remaining 26, I think. Is that right, Michael?
That's correct.
So that's the remaining 26,000 square feet. This piece of property and that will more than likely eventually be combined either into one parcel or split again, maybe into two. And we are concerned with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other comments or questions? The motion was made and seconded to approve a site plan for a Napa store at Lot 10 at the southeast corner of 135th Street and Route 59. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck? Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a final plat of the subdivision of Lot 10 and at the southeast corner of 135th Street and Route 59.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck? Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is liquor code amendments. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3231, creating a Class W liquor license allowing for the sale of wine or beer at salons.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
Yes, I have a question in regard to, it says the sale of wine or beer at salons. Could perhaps the chief or our liquor commissioner explain how the liquor license would be issued to a salon? And how many, is it a regular liquor license?
Yes, and so will the fee, and any operator that would serve said beverage would have to undergo Bassett training. And we're not sure, but we think that sometimes with some of these liquor licenses, the license fee will cause them to rethink their request.
Okay. Someone said to me it's a common practice in an awful lot of salons, in that I'm really kind of short on hair. I don't go to too many salons, but
A lot of salons do it without licenses.
that's what I'm going to ask that question. Are they serving alcohol illegally?
They have been counseled about that practice, yes.
Okay. You know what I question is the need to sell alcohol, wine, or beer at a salon. In my estimation, the same parallel could be used. Why don't they sell it at a hardware store? I go to hardware stores, and a lot of times I'm walking around. Have a beer or something while you're walking around. I really don't see the purpose in having to relax someone while they're getting their nails done or their hair cut or whatever. I don't see any real reason for having a liquor license at this particular type of service.
Okay, we have someone approaching. Could you
Yes.
identify yourself, ma'am? And
Colleen Almodovar. I own Evan Michael Spa at 143rd and Route 30. We have bridal parties that we actually right now currently lose business because Shorewood allows it. So they go to Shorewood to have their bridal party, get their pedicures and manicures, and have a glass of wine. I have business women that want to come after work while they're getting a pedicure, relaxing, have a glass of wine. So it's common practice in a lot of salons now to allow it, and I feel that why not offer it in Plainfield? They're doing it other places. There are salons in Plainfield that are doing it illegally.
Mm-hmm.
I, of course, have been working with Joan, trying to make sure it's done the right way.
Okay.
So,
Well, you've expanded the concept. There was very little discussion on this particular thing. I could understand, a particular party of one sort or another doing that particular thing. But if we have illegal operations, then someone in our situation, our village should track them down and say no. That's all. But thank you for your input. Appreciate it.
thank you.
also, council has researched this with neighboring municipalities to see what their ordinance reads and such, and she's patterned it after them.
Thank you.
How many neighboring communities have this? Do we know? Everybody?
Currently, there are two, Shorewood and Homer Glen. I spoke to Romeoville and Naperville as well. They're considering it, but they haven't passed it yet.
Okay.
I see this as a variable that the board can decide on that gives our business owners possibly an edge or at least a competitive competitive advantage over other communities. That way, they will make more money. They will stay in town. They will stay open. I've seen different out-of-the-box ideas as far as serving alcohol in a retail environment. Probably the most radical one I saw was when I was in the Dolce & Gabbana store in Milan, Italy. They gave me a glass of champagne and probably wanted me to buy a $3,000 wallet, and that didn't happen. But I do see this as a tool that we can provide to our business owners. I'm glad that it doesn't include hard liquor. I think that's a good thing. But I could envision, I've never been to a salon with a bridal party, but I could envision that having a glass or two of champagne while they undergo the different services that's offered a salon would be a benefit and would probably be an upsell, an advantage, and be able to help our business owner thrive in Plainfield. So I'm gonna support this proposal tonight.
I think it makes some sense also, particularly there's a significant fee for it, $1,500, so you probably need to make sure you really want it in order to do that. And the Bassett training, I think, is a very good thing also. So I think we've got controls to keep it from being abused, and if it's an asset to a business plan, why not? So.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3231, creating a Class W liquor license for salons. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich?
No.
Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3232, increasing the Class E liquor licenses to 5 and the Class K liquor licenses to 15 for Starbucks located at 239-15 West Main Street.
So move.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
I just had one question. I know there's more than one Starbucks in town. Was the other one not seeking a license at this time?
They've only made one application for that address only.
Are there any other comments or questions?
One comment. Would the liquor be placed in coffee or would it be served in glass?
Hi,
There
Kim
we
Hubbard.
go.
I'm the district manager for the Starbucks. It's not in coffee. It is It's,
Harlan Powell, I'm the
Okay.
Starbucks attorney.
so it's just in, it would just be poured in the glass,
Okay.
Do you have any plans on adding it to your second location here in town?
not right now. Mm-mm.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3232, increasing the Class C liquor licenses to 5 and the Class K liquor licenses to 15 for Starbucks located at 23915 West Main Street. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt ordinance number 3233, amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Sections 415 and 4, oh, I'm sorry, 4-15 and 4-37 regarding happy hour.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
Yes, I have one one question. The happy hour, is that a 2-for-1 drink situation? Or is it just a foolish expressive term, we're going to have a happy hour? Would anyone be able to answer that?
I think council can answer.
It isn't necessarily a 2-for-1. This is a situation where the state law recently changed. Previous to a few months ago, it had been prohibited under Illinois law to have happy hour. That changed, and we were simply trying to conform our ordinance to allow our licensees to have that practice. It does allow for certain drink packages and certain drink deals, so to speak, during certain hours of the week for a limited period of time, 4 hours or 15 hours for a duration of a week, and extended not necessarily in consecutive days. So it does allow somewhat of a traditional happy hour environment, but not necessarily 2-for-1.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Clarification. So in the past, happy hour was allowed, then the state legislature disallowed it. Now it's allowed again, and we're going to update our ordinance to comply with that. Is that?
Whether it was previously allowed, I'm not sure. It had been, Jim may know the answer to that. It was disallowed at some point and now has been brought back.
That's exactly it. It was allowed, then it was disallowed with some state legislation. Now, the state amended that in the last session, so you're conforming to state statute.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3233, amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Sections 4-15 and 4-37 regarding happy hour. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck? Yes. Trustee Rassich?
No.
Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Before we go any further, I just want to thank council for all the research and such you've done on these 3 items. Thank you.
Administrators report.
None tonight.
Management services report.
No report.
Engineers report.
Report?
Planning department report.
Yes, very briefly, you have before you a report. The Plainfield Township Cemetery is requesting a reapproval of the final plat. As my staff report outlines, a final plat was approved over 6 months ago in accordance with village ordinance. It does require a reapproval prior to recording because it is older than 6 months. Nothing specifically has changed as it relates to the final plat. So the township has forwarded a letter. It is in your packet. They are requesting reapproval of the final plat for the cemetery. And we are seeking a motion for a reapproval of this plat.
I move that we reapprove this plat for the Plainship Township Cemetery.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to reapprove the final plat for the Plainfield Township Cemetery. Trustee O'Rourke.
I'm sorry, I just had one question. I'm assuming that they're going to record it this time, or correct?
Yes.
Last time, for whatever
It's
reason,
my
it didn't
understanding
get done, right?
their intent is to
There was no reason, it was just an oversight or something at that point?
correct.
Okay. Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Building Department report.
Just the operating report, no others.
One question, I noticed there are an awful lot of roofing permits, and judging by the addresses, they may well be localized. Do we have a hailstorm that caused a lot of damage? Do we know?
Pretty much the age of the houses at the time too. There were problems with some of the shingles that were being installed and possibly some hail.
Okay, thank you. It's just unusually large number.
You know, Mr. Gusk, I have a question for you. On third page of your report, the residential new construction, it's always interesting every month to get this new construction report. In 2014, at the end of August, we had 106 new single-family building permits. At the end of August 2015, we have 106. Do you, with your expert opinion, do you see us being able to ellipse last year's building permits? You see a very strong, a positive market currently. I mean, it's hard to predict. I know, you know, if you could, you'd be, you wouldn't be working here. Perhaps you'd be on the stock market. But do you have any inclination that we have a strong market that's continuing to grow?
They're still coming in steady, the permit applications, but further than that, I would just be guessing.
Okay, fine. And thank you.
Public Works report.
Yeah, thank you. Advance the slide.
If
It's
you don't-
kind of amazing because just
Alan, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment, if that's okay. There was a request earlier, and my apologies, Board, if you would want to consider these as an omnibus motion to have all the items heard as one item and have a single vote on everything.
I'd support that. How do we make the motion?
We'd need to make a motion to ask for an omnibus.
Make the motion for an omnibus vote on a fairly standard request from Public Works in a number of categories of things we always approve, so it might save us some time.
I second that.
Can we still ask questions?
Yes. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the Public Works reports by omnibus vote. Trustee O'Rourke. No, we'll do the omnibus vote, and then he'll do all of his things, and then we'll do another vote to approve everything.
Well, the only reason I'm asking that is questions of cause concerns.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. Let me just give a real brief introduction here too as well. It was 4 months ago that we were here in this building and we talked about the Emerald Ash Borer. We've talked about it on several occasions here, and the board is well aware, as the public is aware, of the problems within our community and within the region. This year was a very unique year in that when we began this year, there were over 1,800 trees, ash trees, that were showing signs of distress and an infestation to the point that they needed to be removed. Under our standards, they required to be removed this summer and this fall. And so I'm pleased that the staff came together, formulated a plan, actually split the forestry into 2 different groups. We rented a chipper with the support, an additional chipper with the support of the board. And in the past, we had never removed more than 1,000 trees in any given year. So this is a huge feat to remove 1,800 in a year. And I'm pleased to say that our crews were able to remove over 1,700 trees in about 3 months. So I want to recognize TJ Countryman is here, Scott McElrath, Brian Farnstrom, and Matt Raymond for their hard work and diligence. We also had a couple of our seasonal employees, summer college kids that had gotten a good education about forestry and lifting logs and things like that too as well. But they just did an outstanding job taking care of that and saved the village thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So today, as of right now, we have removed over 4,000 trees, 4,100 ash trees within the village. We had 5,300 trees when we started in 2010. So we have a remaining about 1,100 ash trees that are left there in the parkway and some in the parks that need to be removed at some point in the future. And I'm pleased to report that we've planted, with the support of the mayor and the village board, over 1,900 new trees, and there are various species, over 10 different species that we plan the parkway through the consortium, and that has been a great benefit, and we've got a lot of positive feedback related to that. So I want to commend the individuals behind me here and say thank you on behalf of the village for their work this summer. Okay. There are a couple items on Public Works tonight. I think the mayor had asked me a couple of weeks ago if we had anything on the report, and I said no, and he was shocked. So we're catching up a little bit here. The first item is related to forestry. We did rent a Mulbar chipper. The chipper rental was for 1 month. We wanted to try it to see how we liked it. It actually worked very well. We came back to the board because it was above what we could authorize. And the 2-month rental was $9,800 for the machine. The machine was brand new when we started renting the machine, so we were the first user of this brand new machine. The dealer, who is the authorized representative for the area for Mulbar, is motivated to sell this unit. It retails for $84,000. There's a municipal discount of $12,000, a trade-in value of our 14-year-old Vermeer chipper, which is smaller in size, and it's also nearing the end of its life. It's 14 years old. The rental fees would be credited at the $9,000. There's freight that's added. In essence, we would be buying a 2 or 3 month old chipper for $47,600 if the board approves that this evening, and we would recommend approval of that item. So I'd be happy to answer any questions related to that if there are none.
My one question is just, it indicates on there, as you expressed, the $9,800 for the rental credit. My only question was, knowing that we put a large number of trees through that machine and it is 3 months old, would it make sense to try to negotiate on a new machine and not take that $9,800 discount? That was the only question I had.
Is and the individuals can tell you behind me, it is just like a brand new machine. It's a little scratched up. Trust me, it's rough work. But these machines are designed to run for thousands and thousands of hours. This is a superior machine in size, and we believe in quality compared to what we've had in the past. So we expect it to last that 10, 14 years.
Perfect, thank you. You went over the trees already? Can I go back to that? Or
Yeah, I can talk
is that
about
still coming up?
Next item is the tree consortium, so I can touch on that just briefly. The village has been a member for many years. There are 37 communities within the Chicagoland region that are members. We've been very happy with the quality of trees. They use 8 different nurseries within the area, and what we're seeking is approval to purchase approximately 800 trees, depending on availability, and at a cost of not to exceed $200,000, which is what was budgeted within the budget. And again, we've been very happy with this. There's still quite a bit of stump grinding that needs to take place, but we believe that we can make a significant impact on the replacements this year, bring us up to that 2,700 replacement trees within the community, and put us a step closer.
Is there any type of warranty with that purchase from the trees? In other words, for 3 months, 6 months, a year?
A full year warranty, and actually it's a full season the following season. So if the tree doesn't come out within the following season, or if it doesn't grow well, or if it dies within the next season, it gets replaced at no cost.
Persons, do you have any plans for outreach with the citizens of the trees you're going to replace in their front yards to let them know on a schedule of approximately when their tree will be fixed?
We typically drop off a flyer. We call in the Julie Locates too as well. We'll give them information about the tree that they're receiving and how to care for that tree, so they can invest and take care of the tree too as well. And it's been very successful over the past couple of years.
Do we offer them a choice of those 8 different types of trees, or do you decide those?
We, in the first subdivision that we started out, we did have a group meeting, but the turnout was relatively low, and the input in general was mix up the species of trees. We like the selection that you have. 99% of our residents are happy with the trees that we provided, and the goal is we had 30% of our trees were ash trees. At the end of this, if there's any shining light in this whole process, is we'll have a lot more diversity in parkway trees, less likely to be susceptible to disease in the future, and some nice canopies out there with some variety. So I leave it to the experts to pick selections, and it's turned out very well.
Just like to say thank you, fellas, for all your hard work. It really is appreciated.
Great job. They really do.
You know, if I could have one comment, Mr. Persons, you know, with our arborists in the group that's in the back that has been doing all of the work, the one thing you have to emphasize is diversity in selection of trees. The village of Plainfield, with its massive growth from approximately 2000 to 2010, the emerald ash tree was really cheap, and they were sold to us. The disease was brought from Michigan, I understand, but
Yes, I personally brought it with me. You're
yes,
welcome.
he did, in his suitcase. But anyway, no, seriously, you know what? Some of the areas are being planted already, and it's starting to heal the scars of the vacancy. And it really is going to look good in a very short period of time. Putting 800 trees down within this first year is really going to be a remarkable step forward. And believe me, the community realizes, I've spoken with an awful lot of people, and they have understood the problem. A dead tree in your front yard is not a selling device. When we have it taken down, the village took it down out of the parkways, and we'll be putting new trees in. It is looking better already, and it will be great within the next year or so. And like to second what everyone else is saying, thank you for all the hard work. All summer long, I watched the grinders work, and I couldn't believe the size of the trunks that went into that machine. I would have stopped, but I was afraid I would be one of them put in the machine. So. But your work was remarkable, and it will continue for a very short period of time, I hope. But thank you.
Thank you. The next item that I have is actually related to road salt, and if the board can recall, last year we did have a little hiccup in the road salt purchase process. In the past 25 years, the village has participated in the state purchase program, and last year was the first year that in 2 consecutive biddings over 2 months, we did not receive a supplier. And it was the first time that this had ever happened to the village, and there were approximately 200 other municipalities, counties, that were left in the same lurch in a way. And we had to scramble, and we had to find salt, and it was expensive last year. And it was one of those things that was challenging to work through, and I can tell you, I probably agonized over it more than most people, but I'm just talking from my own personal experience. But I say that to say this. This year we started out, we looked very closely at this program early in the process. And we were communicating with the city of Naperville, and they went out for bid to buy 10,000 tons of salt on their own, not knowing what the state purchase program would bring. They received 3 bids, and their lowest bid was $85 a ton. And they really had to look at that and say, you know, this price is a lot higher than what we're used to paying, and is this the new market price? We talked to Naperville about it. We talked about potentially becoming a partner. We talked to the Will County Governmental League about forming a partnership with the other communities, and the consensus and the surveys revealed that most of the communities and counties and entities were going back into the state purchase program to give it a shot this year to see what happened. And to the state's credit, and I know there are a lot of problems in Springfield, but to the state staff that had taken this on, they bid earlier than they did before. They cleaned up some of the issues that they had and problems that they had before. They worked with the suppliers. We contacted suppliers too as well to make sure that Plainfield wasn't forgotten. And we received a bid this year for up to 4,800 tons of salt at a price of $62.61. And if you want to see for comparison, on the very back of the memo, the series of memos there, you can see that the price range over the past 6-7 years has been between $57, $53, $57, $59 in that range, up to the $107 that we paid last year. So we're very happy with the price. If the board has any consternation about the state's ability to follow through with this, after this, if this is approved tonight, it kind of ends our relationship with the state. State doesn't supply the salt. Our contract is directly with the vendor. They just arrange communities with vendors, and then from that point, we get the salt from the vendor directly, we pay the vendor directly, the vendor agrees under the state's rules to charge us this amount. So we're very pleased with the way it worked. I did get the question, the hardest year that we ever had in the past for salt usage, we used approximately 5,000 tons of salt. That's a maximum that we've used in a tough year. We have a little over 1,000 tons in storage right now. That would bring us up to 5,800 tons as far as salt is concerned, and then the option to purchase more if we needed that in the future. But considering the weather patterns, things that went on in Boston, we feel that this is a very good price, and we would recommend approval for that. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this one too as well.
I just wanted to make a comment, say thank you very much for your diligence in trying to save and get a good price on that. It's certainly reflected in the prices. And then also from homeowners or residents' point of view, and regarding the 1,000 tons on hand, 4,800. So again, that's over roughly 5,800 tons. And back to your point, the most you've ever used is 5,000. So from a supply standpoint, we should have more than enough to accommodate what we're expecting for the next winter. Thank you.
We have the storage capability to store the entire amount ordered, so we will order as much as a supplier can provide early in the season and have it on hand. The next item is just more of a housekeeping item, pavement patching program. We did put the pavement patching program out for bid, and just the short list of areas that are in need. Ridge Road, Droughton, just small sections, Ridge Road and Droughton. Water's Edge subdivision, the Reserve subdivision, and Century Trace are the areas that we're going to focus on. So we received some favorable bids from deconstruction related to that. The next item that I have is related to a roofing project. Both the salt building and well number 7 are in need of attention. The salt building is a massive building. It actually holds 3,000 tons worth of salt, and then you're going to ask me where we put the remainder amount of salt. That actually gets stored at another indoor facility, and it's safely there for our use. And the roofing plan, actually the old membrane roof that was on top of the salt building had a weather storm that hit about a year ago or so, tore up the roof. The roof had a 10-year warranty. We don't believe it was probably the best application for the building. This is a new system that Mr. Jessen and Mr. Threewitt had been working with some suppliers and an architect on. It's actually a metal roofing system that is anticipated to last 30 to 50 years. It should last a long time, where the metal roofing is secured to the existing roof and should last for a long time. Well number 7 is a shingled roof where the shingles are going to be removed and replaced. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that item.
All right, 2 questions. Number 1, it mentions in the report that one of the structure was damaged in a storm-related damage potentially. Was there no reason or possibility of any type of insurance claim for something like that, or?
Yeah, we did apply at the time. The village for buildings and structures is responsible for the first $50,000.
Okay.
And they calculate on a roof depreciation, so we were, that claim was not approved.
Thank you, and forgive my ignorance on the bidding process, but I look at the bids that were compiled, and obviously the recommendation is to go at the lowest bid, which makes sense, but my question is it possible, or could we consider splitting them out? In other words, the one with the lowest bid for the 2 doesn't have the lowest bid for the well house, and the other one, another vendor has the lower bid for the well house. Could we swap one with the other, or not allowed based upon the bidding process?
You know, it's not permitted under the bid because the bid is for both jobs. But I can tell you this, we've had other larger jobs, roadway jobs, where the anticipated traffic control costs is around $15,000 or $20,000. The contractor will bid $1. The anticipated removal cost for materials is $10 a cubic yard. They'll bid a penny. And there are ways that companies bid jobs against other companies, and they'll bid a lower amount on one part of a job and a higher amount on the other. And the low bid overall, and I can tell you from experience from rejecting bids and rebidding projects, most of the time the bids do come in higher when we reject and rebid, or we lose one of the bidders. And my concern is we only had 3 bidders, and the high bidder was at $137,000, was significantly higher there too as well. So to answer your question, no, the bids have to come together. The idea was that doing more work would get a lower cost, and that does seem to appear that way as far as the salt building is concerned. But for this contractor, there is a little more of a premium on well 7. Ultimately, they're a low bidder when we total them together.
Thank you.
The next item that I have is related to the chip seal. This is actually used to be called the Tar and Chip Program years ago. These are more for farm type of roads and things like that. We did partner with the township. This is the same contractor, same unit prices. We did bid this out last year too as well. It's just that there was a little more quantity that was used, and it was based on that quantity. This is a final payment and the change order, but since it's above the $5,000, it requires the board's approval. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, but that was Gilmore, Cherry Road, Johnson Road, and Wheeler Road, west of town. The last item that I have is related to the Village Hall here. Here at the Village Hall, the air conditioning units, the compressor units are very large, actually. There are 2 that chill and cool the entire building. They were installed in 2002 when the building was brand new. One unit has a leak that needs to be addressed. And to address the leak, there's a good portion of the unit that has to be disassembled. So there's a cost associated with repairing the leak. The other thing is that with the amount of time that the units have been in service, it's been recommended and through the evaluations that they actually be looked at for rebuilding the units. I can tell you that to come up with prices for replacement, because that was our first question after we talked about rebuilding, the units themselves are approximately $100,000 a piece. They're 2 units. So if the Village Hall were to lose a unit where the unit, because they spin relatively fast, and if it were to self-destruct and have to be replaced, it would be a $100,000 emergency expenditure that we would come back and have to address the board. Our plan was to tackle this fall, take care of the leak, have the unit completely rebuilt. It'll come with a 5-year warranty too as well, and the manufacturer has warranted that this will be just like new as far as, and very common for municipalities and businesses to pursue. At a future date, we would bring the other unit before the board to have that rebuilt as well. But under the recommendation of the manufacturer, it's better to do it in phases to get the other one back into operation, so we're not down both units at the same time. So I'll be happy to answer any questions related.
Specifically, what's leaking? What material's leaking?
There's a valve internally that it's leaking the Freon back into the wrong side.
That's leading fluorocarbon then. Okay.
And you're well aware.
That's a charge, that too, so if that's.
Exactly. And we're aware in our home systems that, everything has to be recovered, of course. There's so much, and it's not Freon, it's the new refrigerant. I apologize, but it needs to be recovered properly. It then gets to recycled, and then new refrigerant gets installed, and there's a cost associated with that too as well.
My only question was, it talks about there's 2 units, and we're gonna fix one. Does it make any sense to do them both, as long as the unit's gonna be down to fix the one, to do both, and if they're both the same age, and, obviously the one's leaking, but the other one's not, any savings if you do 2 rather than 1, knowing that eventually we're gonna have to do the second one anyhow?
And have the systems down.
We did talk to the vendor this afternoon because we anticipated that question too. They felt more comfortable doing them at different times, and they stated that the cost would be the same. Now, of course, they would like to have a commitment on the next one too as well. They can't warrant that it will be the same cost as far as the $28,000. It may go up over time if we wait, but our feeling is let's get this unit rebuilt back in service and then talk about it in the future.
You know, there's the cogent word, in my estimation, in your particular presentation is the required work. The simple fact is, what's the option? You have to have these particular machines operating to ventilate this building. We have individuals who work here who need heat, air conditioning, et cetera, et cetera. Recently, I had a hot water heater replaced in my home. It was 75-gallon, vented, power vented, and the price was $1,600 to have it installed and the old one removed. Okay, I don't want to pay the $1,600, so I guess I heat water over the stove. You know, we can't operate in that fashion. You have to have this system in this building has to be operating in a proper fashion. We have the whole thing needs to be done properly, so I would definitely approve having this work done and the second unit worked on after the first is completed.
And that's all I have.
Are there any comments or questions for Alan under any of the Public Works items? If not, then we're seeking a motion to approve the purchase of a 2015 M18R Moorbark tree and brush chipper from Alexander Equipment Company. The total cost of $47,676.25. To waive the bidding and authorize the purchase of approximately 800 new parkway trees from the Suburban Tree Consortium at a total cost not to exceed $200,000. To authorize the purchase of up to 4,800 tons of road salt at the state bid price of $62.61 per ton from Morton Salt, Inc. To award the 2015 patching program to Deconstruction in the amount of $120,152.50, and to authorize the village president to sign the related contract. To award the 2015 roofing project to Adler Roofing in the amount of $67,740.50, and to authorize the village president to sign the related contract. To approve the final payment / change order to AC Pavement Striping Company in the amount of $8,777.10 for the 2014 chip seal program, and to authorize the required work to be completed on one train RTAA chiller / group compressor at the Village Hall by Train Building Services in the amount of $28,000, and to authorize the village president to sign the related agreement.
Move that we approve all these projects as part of our omnibus.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Police Chief's report.
Thank you. The first item I have on the agenda is seeking board's permission for the authorization of sale of some personal property. That property specifically are 3 vehicles utilized by the police department. The first one is a 2006 Chevy Impala that was used within the patrol division. The second one is a 2003 Volkswagen Bug. That was a seized vehicle that was utilized at the police department. And the third one is a 2006 Mercedes that was also a seized vehicle. I am seeking the board's permission for authorization to sell these items.
I move that we approve the sale of these 3 vehicles.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3234, authorizing the sale of personal property. Trustee O'Rourke?
I'm sorry, I just had one question for the chief. I know this is the way we do it, chief, and I'm kind of new, so I guess I'll add, is there any way that we've maybe done it in the past or that other communities sell this type of property that maybe we could offer it, knowing that those auctions are not open to the public, I don't believe, so where maybe some of our residents might have an opportunity to buy what might be a discounted vehicle?
I can speak for Plainfield. It's the way we've always done it. I can't speak for other municipalities. I'm not sure how they do it. I would think if we did it ourselves, it would put additional work onto our police department to have to manage that. And be honest with you, we'd probably have to research the law a little bit to see if we can actually do that or not that way.
Didn't we talk about it once before, that those auctions are open to the public?
Actually, we talked about it last month when there was some additional vehicles that we had, or the village board had declared it surplus, and at that time, I had spoken in there. At that time, I had believed that it was open to the public, but actually the only people that can purchase these vehicles are authorized dealers. They're allowed at the auction. After that meeting, I did get a couple inquiries from a couple residents of our village, and I did explain to them the error that I had made at that time, and they were okay with my explanation. But I did make an error at that last meeting. It's only open to authorized dealers.
Thank you.
We can explore that as a possibility, and
At least, I appreciate it. Check on the option. It might help some local residents that are looking for discounted vehicles.
Might find a dealer who'd be willing to represent them.
be happy to explore it.
That might be something that's easy.
Maybe we get a better sale price because it's not at the auction. I don't know.
Well, I think you should maybe get a dealer to go to the auction, and represent individuals or something, so that's,
Thank you.
they can explore it.
Did he go yes?
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. The next item I have on the agenda is seeking board's consideration to adopt an ordinance basically regulating replica firearm cell phone cases. I believe in your packet, I'm not sure if we have a picture on the screen or not, but I believe in your packet there's a picture of the item I'm talking about. This is actually the item that we purchased off the internet. It's basically a cell phone carrier. You place it's not my size, but it's a cell phone carrier that you place your cell phone in there, and then you can talk on the phone. As you can see, it does come in several colors, this one being black, which strongly resembles an actual firearm. I've done some research on this. There's several communities that have already enacted ordinances outlawing this. Fortunately, I have not come across any instances, specifically in Plainfield, but anywhere in the country where this has actually been an issue as far as law enforcement mistaking this for a weapon in an actual incident or anything like that. I've talked to several law enforcement professionals. I've talked to regular everyday Joe citizens, if you will, and there's not one person that can understand what viable reason anybody would have to possess this or use it as a firearm. As you can see in the picture, again, I believe it's in your packet, you place this in your pocket, and it looks like a real gun handle sticking out of your pocket, in so much that you can actually pull the trigger. It does make a noise, not similar to a real gun being fired, but you can actually pull the trigger. And we've been fortunate this year. We've had a couple incidents with look-alike weapons, look-alike toy guns that have been used in a couple incidents. And because of good luck on our part and because of the training our officers go through constantly, it has not progressed to any point where we've had to take any forcible action against the person. But I can tell you it's been very close in both instances. So we are seeking board's approval to enact this ordinance to be progressive, where we would outlaw these possession or sale of these items in the village of Plainfield. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chief, can you address the penalties for that the proposed ordinance would have?
Yes, absolutely. The first violation of this ordinance would be a $250 fine to the offender, whether it be a person selling them or a person possessing them. The second violation would be a $500 fine.
And that includes confiscation, I assume?
Yes, we would confiscate it as well, yes.
Chief, I appreciate the fact that you're literally trying to get ahead of this, because that's just a terrible tragedy waiting to happen for everybody. So thank you for your work on that. I totally support it.
Be able to, you ordered that online, and if the ordinance is passed that you can't have it here, is there any ramification for the company that mails it here?
Unfortunately, unless they're based in Plainfield, there would not be a ramification. And to clarify, we don't have any companies based in Plainfield that are selling these.
Is there any way we can expand maybe on the chief's idea and bring it to the state level to try to get it enacted statewide as opposed to just municipality by municipality?
Yeah, we certainly can share it with Will County Governmental League that actually represents the village and all of the Will County communities in Springfield. We'd be happy to share our ordinance with them and take it from there.
Absolutely.
Intelligent enough to want to buy one of those and carry those around. But there are some, and I'm looking at this. I'm going to support this, but I don't know if we would be allowed to increase the penalties at this point now that it's already published and, you know, we've notified the public. These are the penalties that the chief is proposing, but I'd like to increase them, especially if there's a vendor in town that's going to sell them. If one of our, I'm not going to say a particular name of any cell phone store that sells accessories, but I'd like to see an increased penalty if the board would be willing to do that. And I don't have an exact dollar amount in mind, whether we bump up the $250 to $350 and the $500 to $750. But this could be a life or death situation that puts our officers in a very bad position. And this is, you know, something where I don't want anybody to even think about having one of these in Plainfield. We could have a tragedy. We could lose a life over this. We could have an officer that accidentally ends up shooting somebody and has to live with that the rest of their life. I would like to see a deterrent that's stronger than a $250 fine. But if $250 is all the board is willing to go, I'm going to support it, but I'd like to see it increased.
The 250 just the standard ordinance or is there ability to change it?
I mean, we can set the ordinance, anything the village would want, up to a limit, but that's a standard that we typically use for some of our other higher-end ordinance violations, if you will.
Now, if you're a retailer, though, and as you were referencing, and you guys noticed that was happening, would it be a $250 per package and confiscation?
It would be $250 per occurrence. So if we had knowledge that a vendor was actually selling these, we would go in there, cite them the one time. They would have to remove them. Either we'd confiscate them or they'd have to remove them and not sell them again. If there was another instance, that would be considered a second violation. And at that point, I think I would also be approaching the board as far as the business license venture for that respective place as well.
I mean, I'm 100% for 110% for this. My only concern with raising the fees is, my concern is some of the people that might be buying these or getting them might be children. They might not understand that it's illegal, and that for them to get hit with a $250 fine, you know, could be very detrimental as opposed to the confiscation piece, which probably would be more important.
That's a good point, Chief. If, for example, if a minor is under this ordinance that's proposed, gets caught with these and ticketed, are their parents responsible for paying the fine, or are they responsible? Let's say they're 13 years old.
Well, the parents ultimately would be responsible if they're under 18 years of age to pay the fine. But yes, they could still be cited if they're in possession of it. Now, obviously, we would take the totality of the circumstances as far as what's going on with that respective incident. I'll be honest with you, if a 10-year-old's walking around with something like this, we're going to pay a visit to the parents for sure, wanting to know what's going on. But again, we would take the totality of the circumstances into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern, I think, you know, the state passed a law, I don't know, probably been 8 years ago. You know, if it rains, your wipers are on, your lights are supposed to be on. But yet you can drive today, it'll be raining out, and a lot of people won't have their lights on. I just don't think people learn about the new laws as we create them. And I don't know how we do that, especially if you can't do it on a state level, how we do it on a local level to let people know that this is a new ordinance, it is illegal, don't buy them, don't carry them. So that's my only concern about raising fees for people.
If approved tonight, we would definitely, through our social media networks, we would definitely put out notices to people that are at least registered through our social media networks.
You know, this is a perfect illustration of the power of the press. We have 3 individuals in representation of newspapers. They can get the information out. They took pictures of your weapon. Perhaps you can get even a better one against a lighter wall. The simple fact is, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. There are laws. You don't use a cell phone. Well, I didn't know it. I didn't realize it. You don't have one of these weapons. These cases. I didn't realize. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. We advertise it. We publicize it. We have the press help us. We get the information out as quickly and strongly as possible, and people have to live with the consequences. And if anybody, you know, there's an awful lot of taste, but a lot of it's awful bad. And if some adult was to buy one of these for one of their children, grandchildren, etc., you know what? They have a price to pay for it. And you know, what scares me is when you had that situation, you held it up. I was thinking, what if I walked into a theater, into a public facility, if I walked in that lobby downstairs and I saw someone with that out their back pocket? I'd be terrified. You know what? it has to be banned, and then we have to do everything we possibly can to educate the public. And I certainly hope our press would allow us or help us do that, and do it frequently and very strongly. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Comment on the, I don't know that, I understand Trustee Peck's desire to have more impact, but based on $100 for a red light violation and the anguish that caused, I think $250 is sufficient to get people's attention, and so is the $500. The confiscation, I think, is actually the most important part of it. Once they know they can't do it, I think it'll stop it. We've, outlawed texting and being on the phone. Well, people still do that, but when you do stop them, catch them doing that, it does cost them. That eventually will stop it. So hopefully we could nip this one before it even gets started. But if not, I think the $250 is adequate. It's more a matter of enforcing it, getting their attention. If they got it, make sure they don't have it anymore. So.
And exactly, that's what I was going to mention is this ordinance that we're looking to pass is really a proactive ordinance, if you will. We have not seen an instance of this yet in the village, thankfully. So we're hoping that it doesn't happen to begin with, but even the verbalization that we now have this ordinance placed, that it wouldn't happen either. So it's really a proactive ordinance that we're trying to get passed tonight.
I guess the philosophy behind me bringing up the increased fine, for example, a parking ticket is pretty affordable for most individuals. Maybe somebody going 5 miles per hour over the speed limit's affordable. Another example then in Chicago, if you take a pickup truck on Lakeshore Drive, it's a pretty expensive ticket, okay? I always thought of that when I had a pickup truck, and I said, I don't want to pay several $100s. And it always crossed my mind when I went to Chicago, and I never forgot it. And that's the same type of aversion I want to have put in place here in Plainfield, to have the community know that you better make sure your children don't have something like this, because you are going to have to write a really big check if you're found guilty in court and proven that your child really did have this. That's what I want to see happen, and that's my reason for bringing this up. I always remember Lakeshore Drive with the pickup truck. I didn't mess with it. I like the community to think the same way on something like this. But if the rest of the board wants what the chief has proposed, I'll vote yes.
You can always raise it, right?
Start out with this and
I'm
see where it
comfortable with
goes.
where it's at today.
Motion for the, I move that we pass the ordinance regulating the replica firearm cell phone cases.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3235, enacting Chapter 6, Article 10, regulating replica firearm cell phone cases. Trustee O'Rourke.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. I also have the operations report for the police department for August of this year, if anyone has any questions.
One question. Most things look like they're getting better year after year. The one category which has got a little bit of a disturbing trend, even though it's not hugely significant, financial crimes. Went from 12 2 years ago to 14 last year and to 20 this year. And I tried to find out what was in the financial crimes, and it looks to me like it's credit card fraud and stuff like that. Any reason other than, well, the economy's getting better, so you'd think financial crimes might taper off, but do you have any insight into that at all?
We really haven't seen any trends as far as specific issues within that. As you mentioned, it is geared a little bit more towards credit card usage, but as far as any specific trends or patterns or anything like that, we haven't seen anything like that. Unfortunately, in some instances, some of our crimes do sometimes go trendy, if you will, where they'll go up and then go down and then go back up again. I think it's just a sign of the times that unfortunately in this specific, the financial crimes area, we're just starting to see a rise in that area.
Would the scams against the elderly people be in this category?
If it was financial, oh.
You talked about it before. I'm just asking the question where they fit.
If it was financial related, yes, it would.
Okay.
Just so you're aware of them, so that you don't fall prey.
I've gotten a few interesting requests, yeah, emails, but they're not local necessarily. But yeah, we talked about trying to make sure people are aware of it, and I just want to make what category they'd be
And speaking specifically of the elderly, we do, our community resource officers and other outreach programs we have, we do periodically go to their respective meetings, the Triad and other groups with seniors around the village, talking crime prevention as a whole, but specifically we do touch base on financial crimes, scams, fraud, things like that.
Good, thank you.
Just a couple other things I'd like to highlight real quick if I could. I'd just like to mention that on Saturday, this Saturday, September 26th, we are going to have a pharmaceutical drop-off in conjunction with the Drug Enforcement Administration at the Police Department. So anyone that has pharmaceuticals, prescription drugs, things like that, they can drop off at the Police Department. I believe that's from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. And then starting next Monday, we're going to have permanently our pharmaceutical drop box located back in our lobby. We've been able to work out an agreement with a business in Indianapolis, Indiana, that it will be free of charge to us. Our only cost will be, depending how many pharmaceuticals we get, most likely twice a year, we just take a trip down to Indianapolis, drop it off to them, they'll destroy it, and there will be no charge to us other than the trip itself. So starting next Monday, that will be placed back in our lobby permanently. And lastly, just a reminder to the public, this weekend coming up, I should say, we're going to have a lot of things going on, especially in our downtown area. Saturday is our homecoming parade, which is well attended. The weather right now is supposed to be pretty beautiful. No snow in the forecast like last year. So we're expecting in excess of 10,000 people downtown this weekend. So as you can imagine, traffic is going to be quite nasty around town. So just remember that. And then Sunday's our Harvest 5K, which is our largest 5K of the year. We're anticipating upwards of 1,500 runners and then associated people watching that. So that is Sunday morning. So traffic will be tied up somewhat around downtown on Sunday as well. If anyone has any additional questions, otherwise that's all I have.
Chief, I don't have a question. I have a particular comment. I didn't get an opportunity to say it at the time, but you were talking about scams Trustee Lamb was talking about scams with seniors. What I'd like to simply say is, if you know a senior who perhaps by themselves, perhaps has some difficulties in one fashion, physically or mentally, be a good neighbor. Watch over that individual. I know of someone who recently was scammed. They had someone knock on the door and say they had to check the roof. While the person was confused, allowed the person into the house. They opened up the back door and let 3 other people in. They kept that older person occupied while they robbed her. All I'm saying, if you have an opportunity, if you know someone is trying to scam a senior, or if they're falling for these different things where they send in money for perhaps magazines or books or whatever, watch over that individual. Talk to them. Make sure that they're safe, not only physically, economically, and mentally safe. It is our responsibility to watch over individuals and just go out of the way, go a little bit. It's not being nosy, it's being caring. Thank you.
Chief, I have a question along those lines with what Jim is saying. If you are selling door to door, soliciting door to door in the village, is there a process that, for the benefit of the public to hear this from you, is there a process that people need to go through if you're a legitimate person who is soliciting in the village?
In most instances, you do have to get a solicitor's permit. There are certain businesses out there that, because of First Amendment type regulations, they are not required to have one, mainly things associated with the press and media and things like that. But in most instances, they do have to acquire a solicitor's permit at the village in order to, and they have to highlight what their company is, what they're soliciting around the village, and also contact information. So if we get any complaints or anything like that, then we know who to contact.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Attorney's report.
No report, thank you.
Reminders.
September 28th will be our next committee of the whole. October 3rd is our strategic planning in the morning from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And October 5th will be our next regular board meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.